Today we're going to be talking about distance formula. Distance formula can be used to find the distance between 2 points on a number line, and we have a separate distance formula that can be used to find the distance between 2 points on a coordinate grid, also known as a graph. So let's look at finding distance on a number line first. This distance formula is going to be the absolute value of x2 minus x1. And you'll notice that both of these variables are x's because we're just dealing with a number line, so there's no y coordinate involved at all. So let's see if we can find the absolute value, or the distance, excuse me, on a number line. Let me draw us an example. Okay, so I've drawn us a number line, and on here we have 2 points. We're going to call these points A and B. And we want to know the distance between those 2 points. On a number line, you have a couple of options. First way we're going to solve it is using the formula at the top of the page. So our distance from A to B would be the absolute value of -1 minus 2. Okay? Remember, these are absolute value bars. Okay? Some people want to know which coordinate has to be x1 and which one has to be x2, and it doesn't matter. Either one of them could be x1 or x2 because it's not going to change your answer. Remember that for absolute value bars, we have to solve the inside first. So we get the absolute value of -3, and then when we're ready to drop those absolute value bars, remember that it will make that number positive. So our final answer is positive 3. So our final answer here is 3. Okay? One way you can check your answer on here is by counting the number of spaces between A and B. So you'll notice here we have to count spaces. That's 1 space, 2 spaces, 3 spaces. And so as long as that number of spaces matches up with your answer, you'll know that you did that correctly. All right? Let's try another example. Okay, so we're going to try another example, and this time I've called our 2 points C and D. The formula is the same, so we're going to be doing the distance between those two is the absolute value of -5 minus -1. And you'll notice that I had to put the -1 in parentheses because I want to be sure that I don't forget that these two negative signs are going to combine and become a positive sign. That's going to be really important. So I'm going to go ahead and solve this. And so I have -5 plus 1 is going to be -4. Remember, these are still in my absolute value bars. And that also remember that the absolute value bars mean that when we're ready to drop them, it's going to turn our number positive. So we're ready to drop them now, so that's going to be +4. And that will be our answer, and we can double check it up here on the line, on the number line, by counting our spaces. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. All right? Now let's look at finding distance on a graph. Okay, so this is our formula for distance on a graph. You'll have this formula on your formula chart, so you don't have to memorize it. But you do need to know where to find it, and you'll need to have access to it when you're solving these problems. You'll notice that in here, we have x2 and x1 over here, and then we have y2 and y1 over here. And what that's telling us is that we're going to have 2 sets of coordinates. Okay? So if you imagine with me that you have a graph, and you have 1 point over here, call it point A, and you have another point over here, and that's point B, we need the coordinates for A and B. Okay? So we can pretend that A's coordinates are -4, 1, and B's coordinates are 3, -1. Okay? And so I think my graph might be just a little bit off of that, but we're imagining here. The big key on this page is going to be to notice you're going to have an x coordinate here and an x coordinate here. And you're going to have a y coordinate here and a y coordinate here. Okay? Again, it doesn't matter which set you decide are going to be the ones and which set you decide are going to be the twos, but you have to choose one letter to be the one. So I'm going to choose A is going to be number 1, and B is going to be number 2. Okay? So what I'm saying here is when you go back, notice we have these little 1s and 2s underneath each of our letters. We have to go back and we have to add those numbers to our letters here. So we have, this will be X1 and Y1, and this will be X2 and Y2. Okay? Because this is, the A team is team 1, and the B team is team 2, and it doesn't matter which one you pick for those teams, but you have to choose, and that they have to have those numbers. Okay? Now, we're going to plug our numbers in to the distance formula, and we're going to solve that. So, we're starting off, we have distance equals the square root, and we have to do x2. So we come over here and we see, okay, 3 is x2 minus negative 4 is x1, and that's squared. Okay. And remember that negative 4 came from here because that's our x1. And then we have parentheses, y2 is negative 1 minus y1 is just 1. Okay, so, and we have to square that. Ran out of room up there. There we go. So I know that this looks super messy and super complicated, but it's not, I promise. And we're going to work out a lot of examples for this, and then I have a fun scavenger hunt for us to do. So we have to solve what's inside the parentheses first. Remember, PEMDAS says parentheses first. So we're interested in this information first thing. Okay? Don't forget that because we have 3 minus negative 4, that will become a plus. And so we have 3 plus 4 is going to be 7. Oops, I drew the wrong symbol there. Just a second. So you have 7 here, squared. And then we have to do the same thing on this side. And I go ahead and put my parentheses around that second number. This time it's a positive number over here. Like this one is positive. So you don't actually have to have them on there, but it's a good idea to go ahead and include them each time so that you don't forget. So this time we end up with negative 1 minus a positive 1. So this is just going to be a minus sign. So negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. And that is squared. And you can type the numbers on the inside into the calculator to square them. The 7, when you square it, is going to be 49. That one's not hard. When you go to square this negative 2, you have to type it in with the parentheses, okay? And the key here is that every number after this step, right, anything below this line is going to be positive. So that's going to be a positive 4. Then you add those numbers together. So 49 plus 4 be 53. And if this could be simplified, you would simplify it. This one can't, so you are done. All right? Thank you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day. And like I said, tomorrow in class, we will work out a lot of examples of these so that you'll have plenty of practice. I hope you have a good afternoon.